This video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. I hope everyone is doing well. So, in this matrix, silence is a form of consent. And I wanted to talk about potential spam phone calls. So, I briefly got into how when I've been outside and I get a random phone call and I don't pick it up, there has been a pattern of there being more cloud coverage and my Wi-Fi gets turned on. Since silence is a form of consent, what is a part of my consciousness consenting to when I do not pick up a potential spam phone call? What am I consenting to? Because there's some type of relationship between the internet, our consciousness, our souls, these potential spam phone calls, Wi-Fi, telephones, data, all of it is connected. So what am I consenting to? What am I being tricked into consenting to, since silence in this matrix is a form of consent? I also want to say and add, I've said this before, but I'm going to state it again. Word Magic, The Power and Occult Definition of Words. The audiobook is on YouTube. Chapter 5 is probably one of the most important chapters. Highly recommend it. It fleshes that out a little more of silence being a form of consent, and it speaks about the legal system and how that is legally applied, and why it's important for us to use our voice against the oppressors and those who are upholding this illusion. So yeah, just forming that question of what's going on, what am I consenting to, that is allowing them to get away with manipulating, potentially abusing a part of my consciousness, our consciousness, for those that relate in that specific way. And I want to share an experience. While I was at Target, I was working and just bagging groceries essentially, and then putting them up in a specific spot. I'd pick the order and then bag the groceries and put them in its home so the drive-up team could take them to the customer. That was my job. I was on a time crunch, and I had this little device. It wasn't an iPhone, but it was a device. It could connect to the internet. And while I was there, I started picking up on when my vibration would get lowered, because while I was there, I realized and came to the conclusion that I was the only one in the store who was on their journey of remembering who they were as a 9-ether being. And I was one out of, let's say, 2 people that wants this spiritual shift to happen and balance to be restored back into the realm. Everybody else does not want that to happen while I was at that corporation. So I noticed that after they would put in some effort to get me to lower in vibration and drop in frequency, I would get a potential spam phone call shortly after. Short enough that I noticed it. It wasn't immediately after, like the next second, but it was within 5 minutes, whether I was picking the order or bagging it. And bringing the concept of silence as a form of consent into this conversation, and all those people not wanting me to shift and us to shift and remember who we are, it made me look at the suggestion of me not picking it up, me not picking up the phone call differently. I was advised not to pick up the phone call because of the time crunch, etc., etc. So I didn't. And all of us, got the phone call, whether we were, regardless of what species we were, Anunnaki, 63 human being, didn't matter what department you were in, you got that phone call at some point. At least that's what I was picking up on from the different people in different departments that I was around on the days that I worked. And I noticed, as I said earlier, when my vibration would be lowered, I'd get this phone call. And so I'm advised not to answer it. And during the beginning, I would just hang it up. And I noticed that when I would hang it up and just let it go, they call again. And I do the same things. It either happened twice or it happened 3 times. But I feel it in the left side of my brain. Yet when there was a point where I just decided to change, especially when I was just processing through the reality that people are literally clocking in just to get me to lower in frequency. And then once y'all do that, y'all feel better about yourselves. So when I was processing through that and feeling irritated and upset, I ended up picking up the phone call. And when I did that, I felt it on the right side of my brain. And the person would sometimes call back, sometimes they wouldn't, but I shouldn't say always, but when I would pick it up, I'd say something, like, I'm busy, or I can't help you, call a different department, wrong number, and hang up. I kept it short and sweet. And I do believe that had an effect in some way, shape, or form to what they were doing when, and however it looked like when I would get the phone call and I would not pick up. Because no one can make you do anything in this matrix unless, you consent to it. But everybody out here is doing a lot of influencing in whatever way, shape, or form to keep us asleep and the whole planet on a lower vibration. So, again, taking into account that these beings that I'm working with don't want me to shift, don't want this shift to happen, don't want any of us to remember who we are, and they are advising me not to pick it up. They're not reprimanding me, they're not, scolding me, but they're advising me, right? Because they can't make me do it. But if I choose to pick it up and then I mess up on the bagged order or it doesn't get done in time, something happens, then I'm going to get reprimanded because I chose to do that. See how they'll get ya? So I picked it up a few times and I did that and it felt different. And now when I get these potential spam phone calls, I have the tendency of picking them up, saying no, and then hanging up within 5 seconds. I have not said, I do not consent to this treatment or something along those lines, but I say no, and then I hang up. Pick it up, no, hang up. And the times that I have done that, it hasn't been every single time, but it's been enough for me to notice that the effect of the cloud coverage, it doesn't happen. If they get that cloud coverage to appear, they're going about it a different way. When I do that, pick up the phone, say no, hang up, and when I turn off my Wi-Fi, that cloud coverage does not come about as smoothly and organically as they would like. Sometimes it still comes about, but they're putting in more effort and going about it, as I said, a different way. So this video I just wanted to make talking about silence being a form of consent and how that phrase opened my mind to the places of where I may be being silent unintentionally, and because of that I am somehow, some way consenting to my consciousness, my spiritual body being manipulated and abused by the oppressor, being used to fit their internal will for whatever the reason and however it fully looks like. So that's this video. And bottom line, what I got from that phrase and what I'm currently exploring when I get these phone calls is to use my voice. Whether it truly has an effect on the outcome or not, they know. I know I will know later in this energy cycle, but what I'm picking up on as of right now today and what I've experienced, there is a little bit of a change. And I'm just making this video to offer anyone who may feel that, they're being a little manipulated and they want to either fight back or do something to further protect their energy. Because that's another thing. When my vibration would be lowered, since this is an energy game, a spiritual game that we are in, that's coming to an end, I suspect that when my vibration was lowered when I was at Target, since it wasn't the cloud coverage, my energy is being siphoned. However that exactly happens and looks like, I don't got that answer today. But for these entities and fallen goddesses, fallen gods, who reached a point where they feed off of our essence and our energy, specifically our lower vibrational energy, that they're siphoning it and feeding off of it. If they're not feeding, using it for something else. So full circle, when I say no, it's my way of saying no to that. But again, whether that has an effect or not on literally anything, they have that answer. And so do those who see everything that's going on that are carbonated, but maybe, a prisoner of war and can't share that part of the truth for whatever the reason. All right, I feel I've talked, I've hit all the points that I've needed to make. But yeah, it's just, bottom line, use your voice, and I've just reached the point of becoming more aware of and questioning, what is the internet, right? And how are we connected to it? When I hear my headphones say Bluetooth connected, what are you connecting to? When I feel it in the left side of my brain, Wi-Fi on, left side of the brain, what are you connecting to? What is it connecting to? Since our bodies are technology that we do not own, is it literally connecting and hooking up to us? Maybe, but anyway, let me stay focused with the phone call and potential spam, and just wanting to reiterate how all of it is connected. Our spiritual bodies, phones, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, cellular data, the internet, and all of these calls. And silence being a form of consent. So use your voice whenever you can, however you can. I'm going to end this video here and say I hope everyone is enjoying their day if it just started. And if it's ending, I hope you have a peaceful, restful evening. Peace to you all.